Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Ganana Tva Ganapati Gum Havamahe Kavyo Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jyestarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspatha Anashunvalno Deviseda Sadhano Prano Devi Saraswati Vaje Virvajinivati Vinamamitrayavadho Ganeshaya Namaha Saraswatyai Namaha Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Jnananandamayam Devam Nirmalarspatikatrudhim Adharam Sarvavidyanam Ayagrivam Yasyad Varadavakradhyaya Parishatya Parashatham Vignam Nignam Ti Satatam Vishwashremam Tamashraye Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Sarvalokanam Visaje Bhavarogina Nidaye Sarva Vidyanam Sri Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Sai Ishwararpanamastu Prapanna Parijathaya Totra Vetraikabhanaye Jnana Mudraya Krishnaya Gītāmrutaduhe Namaha Sarvopanishad Gao Doktha Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsau Sudhir Bhokta Dugdha Gītāmrutat Mahat Vasute Vasutam Devam Kamsa Chanūramardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vandhe Jagadgurum Om Klim Krishnaya Namo Namaha Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Krishnarpanamastu Namo Namaha Suswagatam. Hello and welcome to our sixth session of the journey into the battlefields of Kurukshetra, where there is a conversation taking place between the intellect, namely Krishna, and the confused mind, namely Arjuna. So we've looked at up to chapter 8 last week. Today we are going into chapters 9 and 10. Right? Chapter 9 is called very aptly Raja Vidya, Raja Guhya Yoga, which basically Raja Vidya means there is no higher knowledge than this, right? Raja Vidya, the top, the epitome of knowledge, if you like, right? Raja Guhya means most confidential. That is why most people do not know it or do not know of it or do not know how to get to it. Hence, it is the most confidential. But this most confidential knowledge is what Krishna is telling Arjuna right there, smack, being placed in the battlefield, right? Now, first he talks to him in chapter 9, he talks to him about the confidential knowledge. And then in chapter 10, he talks to him about himself. After giving him the confidential knowledge, then he speaks of himself as the manifestation of the one into the many and the many into the one. So that Arjuna becomes settled in the knowledge that he is actually talking to the supreme reality of Godhead. No other. Then only next week you will see, when I talk about, chapter 11, the divine vision. So he gives him the eyesight to see him in his entire manifested form. Before that, he's preparing him. Just like before surgery, the subject is being prepared by making sure that everything that is needed for the surgery has already been done, so the surgeons can just come and work and do what was needed. So that is what is happening in chapter 9 and chapter 10, is preparing Arjuna for the divine vision in chapter 11. Okay, so what is important about chapter 10 or chapter 9 here is, the fact that Krishna talks to Arjuna about knowledge and the glory of knowledge and what qualifications one needs to have in order to beget that knowledge. It's not as, going something and buying, from the shelves of a supermarket or something like that. And he talks to him about the nature of God. Then Krishna also addresses the issue of bondage. What are the causes of bondage? And then he tells Arjuna about atheists, theists, and the different types of upasana that one can do in order to reach that God. Then he makes a distinction between two types of bhaktas, satkama bhaktas and nishkama bhaktas. And I'll talk about this in a bit more detail, right? And finally, he ends chapter 9 by speaking about the glories of devotion, bhakti, right? Bhakti. So, because he is talking about the greatest form of knowledge that any born human being can get, it is called Raja Vidya, the greatest knowledge. And because it is the rarest known amongst knowledge, so it is called Raja Guhya, greatest and rarest. Hence, it is called the most confidential knowledge. So, if you look at chapter 7 and 8, if you recall, right? Krishna did tell Arjuna about the three different pathways, right? He hasn't got to the fourth, but the three. He said, Bhakti is the highest. It's the highest and yet the simplest part of attaining, yoga or union with the Supreme. Having said that, you see, that is why I said to you, every chapter, Krishna always gives Arjuna what he said to him previously before he goes into what he's going to say to him currently. Now, there cannot be a better bridge between one chapter and another chapter than what Krishna himself has done by talking to Arjuna. You remember I said to you this, now on the same topic, I am telling you this. And then when he finishes that, he goes to the next chapter. He'll say again, you remember I said to you this. Now in the same tone, in the same line of reasoning, I'm telling you this. So it is one continuous, right? But as I said, it's a conversation. So conversations have two things. One is question, the other is the response. So sometimes Arjuna asks the question, right? And Krishna responds. Sometimes Krishna poses a question to Arjuna, which Arjuna answers and reposes a question back to Krishna, and Krishna answers that. So it goes like this, back and forth, right? So once he's telling Arjuna, don't mistake me just because I am here in this form, just like you and everybody else in this battlefield. Don't mistake me to be a mere human being, because you do not understand. This is the part where he says, Arjuna, I have gone through so many births and so many deaths that I remember each one of them because I manifest in and out. You too similarly have gone through many births, but you can't remember any one of them. That is the difference, because you come off me and you go back into me, So don't mistake or make that mistake of thinking I am but a mere human being just because you see me in flesh and blood, right? He says, I create innumerable life forms with my material energy. And last week, remember, I said to you about material energy and the different forces. Right? Science is only now beginning to talk about, Einstein's, m equals, EC squared, all of that. Krishna's already decided matter and force back then. Okay. So he says that creation I create by manifesting the many out of me. Now this is the 3S. Srishti, Tithi and Samhara. Srishti is the creation, Sthiti is the sustainability, and Samhara is the dissolution. He said, it all comes from me. Srishti comes from me, Sthiti comes from me, Samhara comes from me. Right? So I have the Sthiti Bhava, Srishti Bhava, and Samhara Bhava. That is me. But you cannot see all of that because of my Yoga Maya. Right? So what you see is only from your human eye that I am Krishna. You see, this is the same mistake the Kauravas made. This is the same mistake Sakuni made. This is the same mistake Dhritarashtra made, right? The only ones who could see him in a slightly more detailed manifestation was, Karna, but still they thought he is human, but he's got some powers. Bhishma, right? Vidura, all these people saw him, right? But could not make out his full glory. But of course, later he gave Karna, he gave Arjuna, and he also gave Bhishma, an insight into who he really is. So he says, don't make the mistake just because you see me as how I am. Don't think that this is me, this is all you get, This is not the boundaries. This is merely the beginning. The boundary is endless, Now, and Arjuna says, if someone recognizes you as like this and prays to you in this form, will they get a celestial body? Will they reach the celestial abode? And Krishna says, yes, if there are rishis engaged in Vedas, engaged in havans, and engaged in homas, engaged in, Vedic chanting, then they will attain a finite celestial abode. Again, when the merits of all those actions are exhausted, they must return to earth, because that is not their final abode. That is what they ask, that is what they get. Right? So you, Arjuna, you must be very clear what you want to ask. Because sometimes, devotees ask a lot of things when they either don't have the knowledge to handle that, what they're asking for, or they don't have the skill to handle what they're asking for. So such things, when given to man, is a waste. So you have to look at what you want that is going to be nitya or anitya, permanent or impermanent. That's what you need to think, right? Pure devotion. Krishna is telling Arjuna, pure devotion, pure bhakti is what will get you. Because anyone who shows me pure bhakti, I'm impartial towards them. Actually, I'm impartial towards all creatures, right? I neither favor them nor reject them. Anyone, even despicable sinners, if they surrender and they turn their lives around and they come to me, then I will give them enough resources for them to become a better human being. If they use it and become a better human, I accept them. If they don't and they go back to their old ways, fine. Then the karmas will speak for themselves, right? Unless you are vibrating at a pure bhakti level, then you merge with me, because at a pure bhakti level, I do not see the difference between Mr. A or Miss B or Mrs. C or Mr. D. They're all the same to me, because I am going beyond the form, I'm going to the soul. When the soul is purified such, it attaches to me and me alone. And that's the time. Once it is attached to me, then I will look after the karmas. I will release you from the bondage of karma. Remember, although it is said, a lot of people misunderstand this, right? They think if you are accepted by Krishna, Krishna will annihilate all your karmas. No. It's not a question of Krishna's acceptance. It is a question of you merging in that divine manifestation of Krishna. Then there is no distinction between, a flicker and the flame. Can you tell which is the flicker and which is the flame? Right? Remember, I said to you before, if you light a matchstick and put it in an existing flame of a candle, candle is burning, you put that lit matchstick and you put it in the flame, can you for that moment identify which flame belongs to the stick and which flame belongs to the candle? That is what I'm talking about. When you merge at that level where there is no distinction between you and him, then your karmas are burnt, right? But to do that, and some people are asking me, you said this, but we don't understand, right? So I said to them, it's very easy, right? At 3 levels: conscious, subconscious, superconscious, right? Mind, body, soul, right? Thoughts, words, actions. At all these levels, there must be only pure love, untainted by any condition, any expectation, any reward, any right, any recognition. Then you're on the right journey. Until then, whatever you say, if I do this, karmas will be burnt up, you can believe that, but it's not going to happen, right? So don't get carried away when you read something and it says, once Krishna accepts you, he will burn your karmas. No, you have to live your karmas, right? Even he had to go through his karmas, right? Do not mistake karma for renunciation. Do not mistake renunciation for merging with the supreme light. They are three different concepts. You have to look at them in three different ways. And this is what Krishna is telling Arjuna, right? So, you remember last week I spoke to you about Sadguna Upasana and Nidguna Upasana. And I said to you, Sadguna Upasana is a means of attaining Krama Mukti, right? But it's not just Krama Mukti. Main purpose of Upasana is to qualify oneself in order to get Jivan Mukti, right? Krama Mukti is a stage where you get the knowledge to overcome karmas. That means by making sure that you're aligned in your thoughts, words, and deeds, right? So future, you don't attain or acquire any karma, but what you've done in the past, that you will have to serve out, right? So there is no getting away from that. So the Lord says, if you want to engage in Upasana, first get the knowledge. Then you engage in the Upasana, right? I mean, there's the same thing, chapter 7, chapter 8 is talking about that. And chapter 9, he's just reminding him, right? So first he talks about the glory and the qualifications. He said, you know, the knowledge of God, you need both in Sadguna, from a perspective of Sadguna, God with form, and as perspective of Nidguna, God without form. Because then only you can differentiate between the Jnani approach, Jnana and Vijnana, right? One is approach of knowledge, the approach is beyond science, Vijnana, right? And that's why it is secret and sacred. Secret knowledge, which is sacred knowledge. And that one you get, once you get this secret knowledge, which is sacred, then you are released from the bondage of the cycle of birth and death. That is why in Bhagavad Gita I said, you know, when I spoke to you about verse 9, you know, I said to you, Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani, Jatare Shayanam, Iha Samsare, Bhautustare, Kripaya Pare, Pahi Murare. Kripaya Pare, Pahi Murare. What does that mean? This life on earth is so difficult, right? From the time I became in my mother's womb a life form, from that moment itself, life has thrown difficulties upon me. So, Kripaya Pare, Pahi Murare. So give me your grace and compassion. So seek his grace, Anugraha. Once you get his Anugraha, then you're well on the way. That Anugraha will save you. That is his true nature. That's what he's telling Arjuna. In verses 4 to 6, he said, look, this is my true nature. Surrender, because I am Yat Bhudam Yat Chabhavyam Utad Mratat Pasyesanaha. I am permeating the entire universe. If you attach to the tree, know that the tree is mine. So attach yourself to me, not the tree. Like that he's saying, everything, like space, you know. I am Kevala, right, non-dual. And I am Asanga, which is, you know, relationless. I am everything yet nothing. And this is the beauty. If you want to know what this means, you go and read the Purnamadha mantra. You know, Purnamadha, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamathaya, Purnameva Vashishyate. You go and find out what that means. It will tell you. This is exactly Kevala and Asanga. That's what it means, right? Non-dual and relationless, like space. Where does it begin? Where does it end? You don't know. So Krishna is actually defining himself here, right? He's telling him, you know, you have to understand that everything that is happening here is happening as a direct result of my will. Nothing moves if I don't will it. Jagat Karanam. I am Jagat Karana, right? So the Jagat, the entire Bhuloka moves, right? Because I will it. And that is why the Prakriti, the earth, is inseparable from me, because I keep the cycle of creation going. Of course, I put people in respective positions, like, you know, so when I call them, they come. So when he goes to Ganga and he calls Ganga Mata comes. When he goes to Bhumi Devi and he calls her, she comes. Right? When he goes before Agni and calls Agni Deva comes. When he goes before Vayu, Vayu Deva comes. So everything is subservient to him. So what does that mean? It means Aham Tat, Tat Aham. Right? I am that and that is me. Right? So if people, he's telling Arjuna, if everybody mistakes me for just being a normal, a Yadava prince, the brother of Balarama, right? Mother Yashoda's son, then that's what they see, that's what they get. One who goes beyond my form, from the Satguna to the Nitguna, then yes. And that's why I said, Hinduism, the Hindu pantheon has been so brilliantly structured that one can use it as a stepping stone in one's own, spiritual evolution. You need a form, but once you get the form, you use the form to go to the formless. If you're stuck to the form, you will never relate to the formless. That choice is entirely yours. Exactly what Krishna is doing in the Mahabharata war. He's talking to everybody, and in this case, he's talking to Krishna, right? He's talking to Arjuna. But he's talking to everybody. He spoke to Sakuni, gave him many chances. He spoke to Duryodhana, gave him many chances. He spoke to, Drona. He spoke to all of them, and he gave them enough chances. But he never told them what to do. He always gave them the choice. And I've said many times, the choice that we make today will be the circumstances that we endure or experience tomorrow. So whatever we are experiencing or enduring today, going through today, is a direct result of some conscious choice that we made some time ago. And you got to be wary of that, right? Because he gives you the intelligence and he gives you the knowledge, but he will not make the decision for you. He will say, this is A, this is B, this is C, this is D. Now you choose. Very simple. And divinity is like that, right? They will never make a decision for you, because then they are interfering with the laws of karma. You have to make that decision. In your thoughts, you have to make decisions. In your words, you have to make decisions. And certainly in your actions, you have to make a decision. That is why they said a man who is harmonized in his thoughts, words, and actions is a pure bhakta, because he is totally in alignment. And once you are there, then your journey is much shorter, right? So then he talks about Sakama Bhaktas and Nishkama Bhaktas. Sakama Bhaktas are people who, he's telling Arjuna, there are two types of Bhaktas, right? One who worship me because they want something, right? Finite ends. Those who worship me for finite ends will definitely get that, so long as they are focused, right? I will give them that because that is what they want. Remember, I spoke to you about the four types: Artha, Atharthi, right? Jnani, and Bhakta. Four types, right? So here he's talking, in the Bhaktas, there are two types. Kama Bhaktas who worship me for worldly things, material needs. So finite things. And of course, if anything is finite, it cannot last for long, right? Even the attainment of heavens is also finite, because heaven is just a stage. Swarga Loka, it's just a loka. Bhuloka, Bhuvaloka, Subaloka, Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Hamloka. Then becomes the space. So if you want to attain the seven worlds, then you will go, but you'll come back. Each time you finish, you'll come back. Each time you finish, you'll come back. So go for something nitya, permanent, because everything else is anitya. Then he says, Nishkama Bhaktas are those who seek me and nothing else. Here, once they are in that path of Nishkama Karma Bhakti, then I will look after them. Remember, one of the verses that is cited in the Vishnu Sahasranamam, when it starts, right? It says, Ananyas chintayantoma yejana paryupashathe tesa nityabhiyukthanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. He's telling you very clearly, once you are on that path and you surrender to me, sarvalokaika yogakshemam vahamyaham. I will look after your every needs. Because your bhakti is at that level of vibrating, it's vibrating at that level of nishkama karma, selfless. And this is what I said. What is the meaning of selfless? You are in thought, word, and action, you are just vibrating with pure love. No discrimination, no distinction, no disillusion, unconditional and same all time. Samadrishti, everything you see, everyone you see, everything you deal with. Samadrishti, equanimity, love. Then you don't worry about your karmas. Because you are going to merge with him and he will sort your karmas out. Until that level, don't talk about burning karmas. Okay? Whatever your source of reference is, it just means you haven't understood what it means. Right? To merge with the light, you have to become the light. Understand that? Then you're fine, you know. See, when people seek finite goals through the worship of the finite aspect of an infinite divine aspect, then they will get the finite consequences of the finite results. Because they're not latching onto the infinite. That one infinite God has got many finite possibilities. If the man latches onto the finite possibilities, what he will get is also finite. But if he goes behind and beyond that finite and latches onto the infinite, then it's a different result altogether. You know? Well, a lot of people miss this infinite, touching of the infinite because of ignorance. Ignorance and ego, right? These two things will stop you. This is Maya, right? You have to go beyond Maya to merge with me. That is the yoga. Yoga is union of mind and soul, body, mind and soul, right? But the Maya is the test, right? The test is, everything has got a test, isn't it? Before you become a lawyer, you have to sit for some test. Before you become an engineer, you have to come and sit for some test. Before you qualify as a doctor, you got to sit for the test. So for basic materialistic ends, you have to sit tests. Can you imagine if you do not want the birth of a human being again? You want to become Purana. You want to become holy, wholesome. Right? Then of course there is some test. But the test is nothing written. The test is how you live your life. Finish. The test is in 3 ways. And the test is every day. The test is every day in 3 days. How you think, how you speak, and how you act. All towards others. Right? Oh, that's right. Right? Krishna emphasizes that to Arjuna. He says, I am verily reachable. Some people reach me quickly. Some reach me very slowly. Some try to reach me. Some don't even try. Each has its own consequences. Right? But the greatness of bhakti, right? You will not be able to engage in the greatness of bhakti if you don't equip yourself with the relevant knowledge. Because if you don't have the relevant knowledge, then all your past sins, all your past weaknesses, all your past extrovertedness, all your dullness, all that can take bhakti away from you and put you back into the cycle of birth and death and birth and death and birth and death. Birth, life and death, birth, life and death, like that, right? So bhakti is universal. If you fix your mind on me and you become my devotee, I am your goal, you are my worshipper, you have surrendered to me, everything is me, then you and me become one. But once you say you have become one with me, then you cannot separate you as you see yourself and me as myself. If you're going to do that, then do all that first before you say you and I are one. Tattvamasi, Prajnanam Brahma. So that is why we have gurus. Gurus put us on the path. Gurus put us on the path so that we can reach the same destination that they have come from. Self-knowledge. Right? So Guru will tell you the scriptures, he will tell you what this means, what that means, what you should be, what you should do, what you should think, what you should explain, or he will explain all of that. But you have to accept that and you have to surrender to the Guru. Sadguru Charanabindabhyam Namo Namaha. That means I am surrendering at the holy feet of the Guru. Guru, Gunati Tha Rupavajjitha. One who is beyond forms and beyond attributes. You accept the Guru to be like that, and certainly Swami has proved many times that he is beyond forms and beyond attributes, right? He's appeared in many places at the same time, and in different forms to different people who believe that God is in that form. See? There's a finite expectation, so you get a finite result. The infinite expectation, you'll get an infinite result. So it's all about empowering Arjuna with the relevant knowledge. So because Raja Vidya and Raja Guhya, Raja, the word Raja comes, right? I thought the acronym for this word should be King, K-I-N-G, which is Raja, right? So it's very easy, King. What is K? All this while I've been talking about knowledge, right? K is knowledge. And the philosophy of this knowledge is same to like chapter 7 when we looked at last week, right? But anyway, I'll talk about it more. I remember what he said to Arjuna. He said, I know all my births and I know all my relations through these births, but you don't know that. So I stands for inconceivable relationship between man and God. Okay, King is the knowledge, king of knowledge. I, inconceivable relationship. And K-I-N-G, and non-worship. Non-worship, or non-worshippers if you like. And G is for glories of bhakti. That sums up the entire chapter 9. Okay, so let us talk about K, king. Knowledge, right? Knowledge has got two issues. One, it is the highest form of knowledge, most sacred, and it is most confidential. Raja Vidya, Raja Guhya, sacred and secret. There are three things about sacred knowledge or confidential or secret knowledge, right? One is it is at a confidential level, right? You know, this is body, mind, and spirit, right? At a body level, it is the body-soul distinction. So we are all spirit souls. Remember, I said we are not human beings on a spiritual journey. We are spiritual beings on a human journey, right? Then at the higher level, at the subconscious level, it is a bit more confidential than the body level. So here you talk about knowledge of pure devotional service. It's called Krishna Sambandha, right? Krishna Sambandha. And then at the highest level, the superconscious level, it is where you will see that you realize first you are spirit, you know, that's the confidential. Then the more confidential, Krishna Sambandha, where you are talking about the knowledge of pure devotional service. Then at the highest level, superconscious level, or most confidential, confidential, more confidential, most confidential. The third and the highest level, you're talking about the pure devotional service, which if done correctly, begets Krishna's reciprocation. This is the knowledge that Krishna is giving Arjuna. First, you must realize that you're a spirit soul, right? You are here for a purpose. Secondly, at a higher level, you must engage that soul, right? You must engage that soul by being involved, firstly knowing about devotional service, and then being involved in that devotional service. Then you go to the superconscious level where once I see that forthcoming from you, I will reciprocate accordingly. Wow, that's great. So that's the first issue of knowledge. The second issue is what are the prerequisites? Prerequisites. What do you need? What is the criteria? So Krishna says for anybody, listen to this very carefully. Yeah? Krishna says for anybody to receive this knowledge, Arjuna, they must have two things. One is anasuyava. Anasuyava means non-envious. Remember I said total love, unconditional, without expectation. Pure loving words, untainted by any conditions or, or response or reactions or, anything like that. So, non-envious. Anasuyava. Second one is Shraddha, faith. So, anyone who at any point of his life's existence is in a state of Anasuyava, non-envious, and has faith in that, he is fit to receive my knowledge. Just like you have surrendered, right? That's why I'm talking to you. I'm telling you all this. Anyone, they will get this. Then Arjuna asks, what is this confidential knowledge, this king of knowledge, this Raja Vidya, you're talking about Krishna. Krishna says there are 7 qualities that will tell you about Raja Vidya or confidential knowledge, right? Raja Vidya itself means king of all knowledge. Raja Guhya means secret of all Secrets, the secret of secrets, Rajaguhya, right? Then he says, Pavitram, it is pure. Uttamam, it is transcendental, right? Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharmyam, it is the perfection of dharma or right conduct. Then is Sukhabam, it is joyful, and it is Avyayam, everlasting. No, time limit. When all these conditions or all these criteria is present, and that means that is the most confidential knowledge, Raja Vidya and Raja Guhya. Right? Arjuna says, well, if that is the case, why are so many people rejecting you? He goes, okay, let's go to the next one. We come to the second acronym letter, right? It's just K, which is knowledge. I is inconceivable relationship. Inconceivable relationship, what does that mean? So here, Krishna is saying, right? If you look at chapter 9, verse 10, he's saying, Maya Dyakshena Prakritihi Suyate Sacharacharam Hetunanena Kaunteya Jagat Viparari Vartate. They're working under my direction, Arjuna. This material energy brings into being all animate and inanimate forms. Everything comes from me, O son of Kunti. So for this reason, the material world undergoes changes of Shristi, Sthiti, and Laya, which is creation, maintenance, and dissolution. Out of me it comes, into me it goes. Out of me it comes, into me it goes, similar to your breathing. So every breath that you take, know that it belongs to me. So as long as you surrender each breath to me, right, you will be fine. With every breath you realize that I am there. With every breath you are surrendering to me. And what more you need, So Arjuna asks, why then do some people despise you, despite you being the source of everything? You are Mahavishnu. You are everything. So let's go to N now. K-I-N, right? It's because we cannot understand all the inconceivable relationships of God being manifested as different aspects, living with us, right? Amongst us, for us. So we don't see him as God, we take him just as a normal human person, and then, that's it. We don't use that opportunity to go beyond. So we go to N, which is non-worship. Non-worship actually was the biggest part of this chapter. Right? A lot of, more than 12 verses were dedicated to talking about non-worship by Krishna to Arjuna. He said, Arjuna, there are a few people in this category, right? Fools, Muda. I spoke about this last week. Mudas deride me, right? Fools deride me. People who think and look at me as mere human. Like when you go to temples and you look at the stone and say, I'm sure some of you might have thought at some point in time, right? This is only a stone. Why are they pouring so much of milk on the stone? Why are they decorating this stone? Why are they, opulencing this stone? Why are they putting all this? It's a stone at the end of the day, right? So God, if you think of what you are, dust if you think of dust you are, as you think you become. So whatever power you give that stone, that's what it becomes to you. You see, two people can be standing in front of the Mulasthanam, right? Mulasthanam is the main, sanctum sanctorum, right? One person's mindset is thinking, all it's only a stone, what am I doing here? And the other fellow will be thinking, Sarvam Krishnarpanam, Etat Somasya Suryasya, he's saying all that thing, you are the greatest. And he's surrendering like that. His result, his consequence, his experience will be different to the other fellow thought, after all, you're only a stone, I should be looking at something higher. This is what I meant earlier. By using the form, Satguna, you have to go beyond the form, which is Nidguna. But using the form itself, you are dismissing the form as totally unnecessary. Then Punarjanmaha, you'll get another one, right? People who think and look at me as a mere human, they will get many more human forms. You say, Avajananti Mamuda Manushim Tanumashritam Param Bhavam Ajananto Mama Bhutha Maheshwaram. When I descend in my personal form, deluded persons are unable to recognize me. They do not know my true divinity. They forget my personality as the Supreme Lord of all beings. To them, I am what they think of me in their minds. To those who go beyond that and see me in my transcendental, divine, universal form, I become that to them. As you think, I reciprocate. Earlier, he's already said 3 levels of knowledge, confidential, more confidential, most confidential. Most confidential is when you latch and relate to me at that level, I will reciprocate. Finish. He's already told you that. So what more assurance we want? Right? And of course, he says those who are taken in by demonic and atheistic views also reject me. Those who are thinking along the line of science. Science can explain many things, but there are so many things it cannot explain, and that is also my doing. Arjuna, so who are those people who then accept you, who can become closer to you? Krishna says, these are called Mahatmas. And who are Mahatmas? He's telling, right? And this word, this reference to Mahatma comes in verse 13. He says, Mahatmanas tu mam partha dhaivim prakritimashritah bhajantya nanya manaso nyatma bhutadim avyayam. The great souls who take shelter in my divine energy, Krishna. Partha. Mam partha. Who mam partha is saying? Know me. Origin of the creation, the sustenance of the creation, and the dissolution of the creation. Therefore, what you are, what you become, and what you do at the end of the day, all depends in how much you engage in my devotion and how much you fix your mind exclusively on me. Right? Nyatva bhutadim avyayam. That is exclusive focus on only me. No one else can share this glory, only me. Right? So Arjuna asks, who are these people? How would I recognize them? Are they amongst me? You see, between Krishna and Arjuna, right? If you had to thank someone today, right? This is my opinion, right? Because it's fantastic, right? No one in front of the divine creator himself will ask so many questions, which to some of us will think, really? Did Arjuna ask that? That is so elementary. That is so basic. How can I? No, the fantastic nature of the questions of Arjuna's must be appreciated in that light. If he did not ask what you think today is basic or elementary, you will not know the response from Krishna. So I will always thank Arjuna first, because if Arjuna was not put in that state of despondency or disillusion, he will not be asking all those questions, and the Lord will not be giving this, this samudra of jnana samudra, this samudra of divine knowledge, which we have today. So thank Arjuna, because without him, we won't have the Gita today. Right? Everybody talks about Gita, Krishna, Gita, Krishna. No, the person you have to thank is Arjuna. Right? Krishna doesn't need your gratitude. Krishna needs your devotion. Krishna needs your service. Don't reach him. Okay? So Krishna says there are 4 characteristics of people who fall into those who will come to me. Right? So Arjuna says, who are them? Are they here? Yeah, there are some of them who are here. Who are they? So he says, those who fall into the category of kritayantaha. Kritayantaha means always chanting. Whatever shlokas or mantras or, whatever they are chanting, always chanting, right? These are people who have the right potential and ingredients to come to me. Of course, it's not just chanting sometime and not chanting the other time. No, always chanting. Right? Then he said, dhradavartaha. Those who are fixed in my vision with an unwavering vow, right? Namasyanta, third category, those who offer obeisances, those who offer service. Nitya yukta upasate, always engaged in me in my service. So brother, I can't recite mantras, okay? Forget about kritayantaha. But I also have trouble, focusing and concentrating and meditating, okay? Forget dhradavrataha. I'm not very rich, so I can't offer obeisances and, Okay, forget namasyanta. But can you not do nitya yukta upasate? Become someone who's always engaged in his service. Help ever, hurt ever. You see, the Gita has been fantastically summarized and given to you in little words by this man. Help ever, hurt never. Finish. That is chapter 3 for you. Right? Next week I'm going to do lecture 12. He's telling service to man is service to God. That today. Nitya Yukta Upasate. He's telling you become. He's telling all of us become Nitya Yukta Upasate. Always be engaged in his service. Service to man is service to God. Madhava Seva is Madhava. Madhava Seva is Madhava Seva. Jana Seva is Janardana Seva. Finish. Somehow what do you want? Why do you want to go deep into the Gita when basic thing he says help ever hurt never we are not doing, or he says service to man is service to God we are not doing, right? Hands that help are holier than lips that pray. If you just practice these three, finish. That is the Gita for you. No, we want to go into deep into Bhajagovindam. We want to go into deep into the philosophical annals of Bhagavad Gita, right? However deep you go, they'll bring you back to the source and say, do this first. Manusha, Muda, do this first. Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karani. He's telling you. The time of appointed death comes if you don't give up all this and show that you are latched to him and him only. Bhaja Govindam, seek him, serve him. Seek him, serve him. Enough. So that's what they will see at the end of the day, right? So we looked at K, knowledge, I, inconceivable relationship, and non-worshippers. And of course, those who worship, Kritayanta, Zadavrataha, Namasyante, and of course, the fourth one. Now the G is glories of bhakti. Very easily Krishna has said. Now this is for all those people who are thinking about gifting very expensive gifts to temples and to the gods. This is for you. I think this was written down for people who fall into these categories. Give means must give, the best. The most expensive dhoti must be given to Vishnu, because if you don't give, he doesn't wear clothes, you see. The most expensive sari must be given. Milk means 10 liters. Sorry, one small bottle won't do. 10 liters must give. The best of this, the best of that, best. No. He's very clearly saying, right? Verse 26, chapter 9. Those of you who doubt what I'm saying now, please look up verse 26, chapter 9. He's saying, Phalam, Patram, Pushpam, Thoyam, Yome Bhakta Prayachati. Patram, leaf. Pushpam, flower. Phalam, fruit. Thoyam, water. You want to give me anything? You give me this. Yome Bhaktya Prayachanti. Tadaham Bhaktayu Paritham Ashnami Prayathatmaham. If one offers me with devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or even just water, Toyam. That is why in all the pujas and the punaskaras and the sanskaras, we offer water. Oyam samarpayami, palam samarpayami, patram samarpayami, all these work. Because he said, this is what I need. Why? Because I have given it to you. Out there, one tree will give you all of this. If you dig deep enough, you'll find water. And of course, the tree has got leaf, flower, and fruit. Nature. That is mine. They give it back to me. Right? So if one offers me with devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I delightfully partake of that article offered with pure love by my devotee in a pure state of conscious giving. In a pure state of conscious giving means I give you this, you give me that back. No. I give you this because it is my duty to give you this. No expectation. Right? So you have to have that relationship, where you are in a state to demand something at that level of pure conscious devotion. Right? Otherwise, it becomes a problem. The grandeur, this is my own saying, the grandeur of offering a rich tapestry of gifts and prasad is not what the Lord expects. He looks for a loving heart, which makes of a genuine offering. Genuine heart. That is why Krishna's best friend was Sudama, the most poorest fellow. You know why? Because he had pure love for him. Everybody else wanted something from him. Krishna knew that. Why was Arjuna so great? Because, Arjuna had he didn't even want to participate in that war. Despite all that adharma that had been done to him and his brothers. He said, they're still, at the end of the day, they're still my cousins. No, I don't want to. And you know how it started in chapter 1. So he was one like this. He had such a loving heart, and he genuinely surrendered to him. Then Arjuna asked, but surely, Krishna, not everybody will be at that level of devotion where they can consciously offer you these 4 things that you ask for. Palam, Bhatram, Pushpam, Toyam. Yome Bhaktya Prayachanti. You ask, isn't it? No, not everybody can do that. So what do the others do? He says, become a karma yogi. Perform Nishkama Karma Yoga, finish. Yat Karosi, Yat Asnasi, Yat Juhosi, Tadasi, Yat Tapasyai. Saying, Yat Karosi, whatever you do, dedicate it to me. Sarvam Krishnarpanam. Yat Asnasi, whatever you eat it as my prasad. Yat Juhosi, Tadasi, Yat whatever you give it away as charity without any expectation, without any intent or recognition or reward. Yat Tapasyai, whatever you do it as a tapasya. Practice austerity, meditate on me and my name. Arjuna, so easy. And Arjuna asking, if we did that, if we only did that, you see, this is what I'm saying, we have to give gratitude to Arjuna, right? Now he wants the shortcut. He's saying, if whatever we did, we dedicated it to you. If whatever we eat as your prasad. If whatever we give it away as charity without any expectation. If we practice tapasya, I meditate on you. Is that enough? Would that pacify you? Will we come to you? Will you merge with us? And Krishna responds, verse 29, he's saying, Samoham sarva bhuteshu dame dveshosti na prayaha ye bhajananti tu mam bhaktya maite teshu chapyaham Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshosti na priya Ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya maite teshu chapyaham. He's telling, I am equally disposed to all living beings. I am neither inimical nor am I partial to anyone. The devotees who worship me with love, with purity, with total consciousness will reside in me and me in them. Verse 29. And he says, if that is not enough, we go and look at verse 36. Man manabhavo mat bhaktho mat yajimam namaskuru mam evaishyasi yuktaivam atmanam mat parayanaha. He's saying, always think of me, be devoted to me, worship me, offer obeisance to me, link to me all the time. Having dedicated your mind and your body, your soul will certainly come to me. Having dedicated your mind and your body, because those are the 2 things you can control. If you control that and give them to me, then your soul will also become mine. That ends chapter 9. Now, having given you the Raja Vidya and the Raja Guhya, most sacred knowledge and the most secret knowledge, now I have to talk to you about the opulence of the Absolute. Opulence of the Absolute is the focus of chapter 10. This is called Vibhuti Vistara Yoga, right? Here he sings the glory of, himself. See, you have to sell a product, you have to tell all the good things about the product, isn't it? You want to sell somebody a car, you don't say the car cannot do this, the car cannot do this, may not do this. No, you say these are the things that distinguish the car from its previous predecessors. So Krishna is telling, what is the worth? How do you convert that divine knowledge and attach it to me? First he gives you the knowledge, then he tells you what to do with it, how to do what you should do. Then he talks about the Lord's briefly, he reminds Arjuna about his glory and the benefit of having that knowledge. Then he talks about types of devotees called Virat devotees. Right, devotees who worship him in a certain way. And then Arjuna asks for some explanation, right? And then of course, Lord gives the explanation. So because all the explanation relates to his own glorified, manifestations, this is called Vibhuti Vistara Yoga, this chapter. Okay. So previous chapter we looked at, he's talking about bhakti, the science of bhakti and loving devotion. Here he's saying how that bhakti should link back to me. The verses, are quite nice with chapter 10, right? To hear. So if you just hear people chanting, it's very nice. And he says, You look at me, right? From my mind itself, the Saptarishis, the Chaturmunis, and the 14 Manus, the Chaturdasa Manus were born. All of them came, descended from me. And they all are living in these different yugas, doing things on my behalf, right? So some of you link to him. He's talking man, some man linked to these Saptarishis or these Chaturmunis or these Chaturdasha Manus. And through them, they can come to me because they are gurus, right? So at the end of the day, regardless of the path you choose, if God dwells in your heart, then he dwells in your house of love, unconditional, untainted. He dwells. Once he dwells in there, then he will give you the divine knowledge, but only when you're entitled to it. You could be doing everything else, but still you will not be entitled to it until he decides, yes, the bhakti has now matured, then yes. So Arjuna is now becoming more and more convinced that he is actually Sri Krishna as a supreme divine personality. So he wants to know more and more. When you see someone and they are telling you things about them which fascinates you, you want to hear more, isn't it? So Arjuna was in that state of mind. So Krishna says, okay, now that I've got your full attention, let me tell you, everything that exists here is a manifestation of my energy. I am Adi Atma, right? And Adi Anta. I am the beginning, I am the middle, and I am the end. Ayam Atma Gudakesha Sarvabhudasya Stitaha Aham Adischa Madhyancha Andascha. Right? You must, because I am the beginning, I am the middle, and I am the end, and everything comes from me and goes back to me. Therefore, you, when you pray, right, you must always make me the object of your devotion. Talking about him. Since the effect cannot be different from the material cause, it clearly follows that the universe cannot be different from God, because it comes from him. It goes like so. Technically, right? The universe is therefore divine manifestation. Hence, whatever glories we see, beautiful mountains or beautiful waterfalls, that is the beauty of him. If we relate everything back to him, then we slowly start to see nothing is independent of him. Everything is dependent on him. Everything comes off him and goes back into him. Once we start thinking like that and then we behave in that same thought process, then Krishna says, this is Vibhuti, manifestation. And the yoga is the power of the manifestation. So Vibhuti yoga, right? That is why Vibhuti is Swami's calling card, right? The rarest of knowledge is given to the rarest of devotees who become close to me through the rarest platform of pure conscious devotion. Simple as that. Verses 1 to 3 in this chapter, you can see this. Right. So what else does he say? He says, everything that comes of me has a purpose to play in relation to some other living being. Right? It is meant to connect the dots. So if you come across someone who helps you, and then you go back home and you say, I met someone today, I don't know who this person is, but they helped me so much. This is the thing he's referring to. He says, I have put people in places at specific times to give you a helping hand because you are on the path of devotion. So I will not. I am Bhakta Vatsala. I save my devotees. So I have put people in places. Sometimes some things happen we cannot explain, isn't it? Why? Because this is exactly what he says. This is Vibhuti Yoga, right? We cannot understand the power of manifestation that has come from the divine. It's pure compassion, right? Out of compassion for Manusha, the Purushas have lit the lamps of knowledge and placed that lamp in the heart. Whether it burns brightly or whether it burns a small flame or whether it's going to die, it's entirely up to the householder whose heart I have placed it in. If you don't engage with the conditions to keep it burning bright, then you'll lose it. And he's saying, you have to be mindful, right? Mouthful and handful. Three things are mindful, mouthful, and handful. Arjuna asks, of what? Of me. Everything in your mind should come back to me. Sarvam Krishna Arpanam. Everything in your mouth that comes out should also be coming back to me saying, Sarvam Krishna Arpanam. Everything that you do, Sarvam Krishna Arpanam. It's not my deed. I am not the doer. Remember, I think chapter 6, I say, who's the doer? Because if you are the doer, whatever you want to do, you'll achieve the result. You're not the doer. So someone else is the doer, isn't it? Give that credibility to him. Give that credit to him. Right? You must see that at the end of the day, yourself, when you realize who you really are, then that can link with me and become one with me. Until you think of yourself as, whoever you are, whatever your name is, whatever your position is in this, Bhuloka, that's what you will get from me. He's talking about consciousness here. Chapter 10, the Vibhuti Vistara Yoga is all about the conscious mind becoming subconscious during this lifetime so that it can latch with the superconscious. That's why you say the 3 Oms. Akara, Ukara, Makara. That's why you say the 3 Shantis. 1 Shanti for the conscious, 1 Shanti for the subconscious, 1 Shanti for the superconscious. So when you start, you link with the 3 levels. When you end, you also link with the 3 levels of consciousness. You bring that peace into your mind. Right? So what is the acronym for chapter 10? It's all about seeing God in everything, isn't it? So I thought S-E-E-C is a nice little, word to sum everything up in chapter 10. So S, source of everything. E, essence of the Gita. The other E, everywhere. The source of everything is verily the essence of the Gita, which is everywhere, in everything, in everyone. That's it. See. If you can see this, then you're on the right track. Earlier was king, now was sea. Kings see, right? Not just kings. You can also be a king. King here means king of the heart, your heart. So let's look at the first one, S, source of everything, right? What does that mean? Source of everything. Chapter 10, verse 1, Krishna is telling Arjuna, listen to me when I'm talking. Hear me again, right? Lord is telling Krishna, you're not listening to me properly. Listen to me properly. He's saying, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Krishna is telling, Bhuya eva mahabaho shrinu means listen. Shrinu mam paramam vacha yatteham priyamanaya vakshayami hitakamyaya. Saying, the blessed Lord said, listen again to my divine teachings, O mighty armed one, Arjuna. Mahabaho, mighty armed one, He's saying, desiring your welfare because you are my beloved friend, I shall reveal them to you. So listen carefully. Krishna is delighted that Arjuna is very interested in listening to him, right? Now to further enhance his joy and, give, many times Swami has treated his devotees like that, isn't it? And given them things, showing them, Once one of the boys went to him and in his mind, he was worried about his sick mother, right? He went before Swami and, he couldn't participate in the bhajans, in the hall. And Swami called all the boys. This boy was also there, but he was sat behind. But he was there present in front of Swami, but he was only thinking about his mother. Swami told all the rest of the boys to go and told him to remain. He said, you want to see how your mother is? The boy was so shocked. He said, Swami, I am Mother Sai. All mothers are mine. You want to see your mother? This mother will show you your mother. See. He could see his mother in a hospital. She was stable. Finish. See. Divine drishti. Just like Krishna gave Arjuna the divine drishti so he could see his manifestation, Swami gave this boy that divine drishti. See your mother, she's fine. Don't worry. Now go. You didn't take lunch. Now go and eat lunch. That is the kind of love I'm talking about. Right? Until you get to that level, please don't talk about burning of karmas. Just because you chant some mantras or you go to temples or you are into some meditation. Please, that is not enough. In your mind, only love must vibrate without any condition, without any criteria, without any expectation of reward, recognition, or award. And At the mind level, you become entitled, then that must translate to the mouth level. Whatever comes out, then that must translate to an action level. When those three are vibrating, this is called Traikarana Suddhi. When those three are vibrating at that level, then yes. Until then, don't talk about it, please. Right? Just get on with it. Do it. Right? So he's saying, you're my Priyamanam. So Arjuna asks, how do we know if someone is supreme? Krishna saying, I've told you all this. That's why he's here again, right? Listen to me. 4 things. Spec. You want to know the specification of who is supreme, right? I give you the spec. S-P-E-C. Spec. So within S, now you have S-P-E-C. Spec. What is the spec? Source, proprietor, enjoyer, controller. Finish. The supreme is the source. The supreme is the proprietor. The supreme is the enjoyer. And the supreme is the controller. That is my spec. You want specification? I give you specification. And more than that, right? If you look at the Vishnu Purana talks about 6 opulences that identifies the supreme. Vishnu Purana. Right? Those of you know the Vishnu Purana, you can go and check it out. He says there are 6 opulences that identify me as the supreme. One is Aishwaryasya. Aishwaryasya. Now that means wealth. Then Viryasya. Strength. Then Yasasya. Fame. Then Shriyasya. Beauty. Then Jnanasya. Knowledge. Then Vairagyasya. Renunciation. These 6 qualities will show you that I am supreme. Right? Most of them have that. Then of course, there we go. S, we've just covered. E is essence of Gita. Essence of Gita is what? Recognizing God is everywhere, God is in everything, and God is in everyone. As He is in me, so is He in you, right? This is what I said to you earlier. Samadrishti, 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 right? So anyway, I will tell you this story about someone called Rishi Adarvana. Adarvana is famous for the famous sukta that most of you would know or some of you would chant, right? Adarvana Shirsham. Right? This is Adarvana Shirsham. That, he meditated on the form of Lord Ganesha, and Lord Ganesha appeared before him. And this is what Adarvana Shirsha. Sage Adarvana, Shirsha means seeing, who saw Lord Ganesh, and then he came up with that. Tvam Brahmas, Tvam Vishnus, Tvam Rudras, Tvam Indras, Tvam Agnis, Tvam Vayus, Tvam Suryas, Tvam Chandramas, Tvam Brahma Bhurbuvat Suvarom. Because he saw that the entire world is Ganesha. Right? Tvam Mooladhara Stithosi Nityam. So he's saying you are the guardian deity, of the Mooladhara Chakra. So it's fantastic. So seeing means recognizing God's presence. So I will tell you this Rishi story, right? One day he was visiting, there was a small village. He was outside the village, and people in the village went and called him and said, wow, you're such a, big, you have to come to our village and talk to us about God. He said, no, I'm busy. I'm doing a meditation and all that. But they persuaded him, so he went, right? So he went, all the villagers were gathered there. And then he meditated, and then he opened his eyes and he says, who here believes in the existence of God? Put your hands up. He said, put your hands up. No hands went up. He says, well, since none of you believe in God, in the existence of God, there is no work for me here. Bye-bye. He left. So the villagers were saying, my God, such a great Rishi, he didn't say anything at all. Then the chief of the village said, next time he asks how many of you believe in God, all of us put our hands. Then he'll talk to us. So they went and persuaded him to come again. So he came again, The next day he came again. After meditation, he came out of meditation. He said, so, how many of you believe in the existence of God? This time all the villagers put their hands up, right? Then he says, very good. Since you all believe in the existence of God, there is yet again no work for me to do. Goodbye. And he left. Again, the villagers, after he left, they were confused. Now thinking, what is this Rishi? You don't put the hands up, he says no work. Put the hands up, he says no work. Then the chief thought for a while. He said, okay, we'll beat him in his own game. Tomorrow, we'll go and persuade him to come again. This time when he comes And he asks the question, how many of you believe in the existence of God? 50% put the hands up, 50% don't put the hands up, put it down. So they agreed, okay. Agreed among themselves who's going to keep their hands down, who's going to put their hands up. Okay. This is man. He always thinks he's one step higher than, jnana, divine knowledge. So they went to the Rishi, they said, oh, please come back, Maharaj, please come back, So he came back. And again, he meditated after he opened his eyes and he said, so, who amongst you believe in the existence of God? 50% kept their hands down, 50% put their hands up. The chief was telling, now he's caught, isn't it? Let's see his response. So the Rishi looked and he said, oh, very good. Those of you who do not know God with your hands down, please find out from those of them who put their hands up who know God. There is no work left for me and I left. And I'm leaving, right? So he left. Now, what is the moral of this story? The essence of Gita is to see God in everything, in everyone, and every time, right? Every time. So here, the moral here is we are lacking in the depth of faith. There's no shraddha, just like the villagers, sitting on the fence, wavering from yes to no to maybe. Why? Because they lack the knowledge. That is why so much time was spent by Krishna to Arjuna, giving him the knowledge. That's why Krishna gives him the knowledge first. Then he is drawn to Krishna. Then the others take place. So even in Bhaja Govindam, I think I mentioned to you, Geyam Gita Nama Sahasram, right? Dhyanam Rupa. So focus on the form, meditate on the form. But Geyam Gita Nama Sahasram, always say the name of the Lord. And unless you believe in it, it's not going to happen. So S-E, right? S was source of everything. E is essence of Gita. Then the third E is what? Everywhere. Krishna's opulence is everywhere, right? Actually, if you look at this chapter 10, Krishna talks about 82 different types of opulences. My God, He said, yet vibhuti mat sattvam srimat urjitam evaga tathat eva gachatvam mamatejo nisambhavam. Whatever you see as beautiful, whatever you see as glorious, whatever you see as powerful, know that it is only a spark of my splendor. Wow. Yet vibhuti mat sattvam tat evavat gachatvam. That's what he's saying. Electricity flows through a speaker, and that creates sound. But one who does not know the principle behind how that electricity flows and converts into sound might think that the sound is actually coming from the speaker. Similarly, oh man, whenever we observe extraordinary splendor anywhere, that which catches our imagination, sends us up in raptures and infuses with bliss and happiness, we should know that it is only a spark of the great glory and manifestation of God. Otherwise, what are we looking at? He says, even the Purukshetra says, isn't it? Yat bhutam yatcha bhavyam utamritat pasyeshanaha. Then another verse is Pado Shavishwa Bhutani Tripadasya Divi. Sarva Bhutasya Sthita. I am everything. Everything that comes out is mine. Everything that is. Arjuna, Krishna said, Arjuna, you don't need to know everything. As long as you see me in everything and in everyone, every time, you are fine. Simply know that everything is just a fraction of my being. Tripadas yamratham divi. That is what the Purukshetra is saying, isn't it? Ashangulam, 1,000 eyes. Sahasra Sirsha Purushaha, Sahasrakshas, Sahasrapat, everything in thousands. And that is a fraction. So the temporary world is made from my material energy. It is but, you see so many things in the temporary world, everything is coming from me, but a fraction of me. If this is so huge and big and, unfathomable, then they know that the source from which it's coming cannot be fathomed without the right platform of knowledge, right? The phenomenon of life and death is again a fraction of that fraction. Once you link with that fraction, then everything becomes secondary. Make me primary, everything else becomes secondary. And that is chapter 10. Anyada sharanam nasti tvameva sharanam mamaha tasmat karunya bhavena raksha Krishnaya. Right, next week, very important topic, chapters 11 and chapter 12. We are looking at the divine drishti. Now, after all this knowledge pumped into Arjuna, Krishna is giving him the divine vision. The divine vision. Once he sees, then the chapter 12 is Bhakti Yoga. How Krishna is now telling, this is Bhakti. This is what you have to do. Okay, Sai Ram.